assets, and we haven't done an extraordinarily decent job of this overall. A for effort that our execution we could improve on. If I search for The Great Gatsby, I literally still have 60 pages to go before I get to a library. This was a search done prior to the movie coming out. Now that the movie coming out, I actually quit at page 100. I'm sorry. I don't know anybody who goes to page 60, let alone to page 100 to try to find a search result. The point is that, in fact, of the assets that we have, the people using the web to find them can't. In fact, a lot of the work that we're doing right now on the vocabulary is huge, and a lot of the efforts that we, in a variety of different industries, by a variety of different vendors and a variety of different initiatives have done, is important. We are actually taking very important steps to describe our assets, but they're still islands of descriptive information. In fact, we harvest, as a search engine, this linked data, but these become very isolated, interesting, individual data assets. Yes, I can basically harvest The Great Gatsby as a book. It is available in the results set. But the fact that we don't have a lot of things linking to this means it's basically in page 60. So we can describe the fact that it's a book, not a website. That's an important step. But we're not increasing the visibility of these things. It's a good step to start creating relational links between these assets and institutions that hold them. But remember, the value of something on the web is proportionate to the number of things that link into it, not out of it. The number of things that link into it increases its popularity. The number of things that link out of it has marginal impact in terms of this. In fact, what a better solution is from a visibility and discovery is having a lot of things, in fact, point into it. So if we have a lot of websites that basically are part of a life sciences SEO campaign, and you pay 100 websites to link to your diabetes drug. When somebody searches for diabetes, they get, increasingly your results. We have 20,000 libraries in the US alone. If we had 10% of those libraries pointing at the same thing, we would have an SEO campaign that rivals any industry. And that's an SEO campaign and an SEO strategy of circa 2007. But it's still huge for us. It's still enormous for us. It's still a wonderful way of increasing the connectivity and the awareness of things so that more people start to create things. Link data, these standards, these technologies, a lot of the stuff that we basically are talking about right now is the key for this. It is amazing what's happening right now in the web, and I'm going to talk about the impact here it has in the future. These technologies, in fact, are not something specific to library. They're not something specific to our industry. They actually happen right now. The reason I can search for a Dell laptop and not get every particular company that basically sells that is because none of the search engines want the front page to be dominated by any one domain, which is fine. So things like consolidation occur. And instead of basically having every company that serves Dell laptops that points to the same thing, you could basically consolidate this and kick off to a new aggregate that says, shop or shop near me, or et cetera, et cetera. There is nothing stopping us, just ourselves, from having the exact same thing happen in the library industry. And we're not asking anyone to do anything special. We're just talking in a way the web understands. What's the most exciting about this is that, in fact, all of the pieces seem to be coming into place. So the underlying web standards that we've been talking about and developing and designing for the past 18 years actually are maturing and becoming increasingly commonplace across the board. The dark web, the invisible web, the web of library, museum, and archive information are increasingly being predicated on these linked data standards. We're missing an opportunity about execution, about publishing, but the standards that we're discussing are in this vein, and in fact are poised extraordinarily well to take advantage of these trajectories. The front-end search engines are actually able to consume this in a way. We talk about schema.org as a vocabulary, and it is a very important one, but it's a constantly moving trajectory. But the reason it's able to constantly move is because underpinning this are a lot of these linked data technologies, and it allows that evolution, in fact, to actually occur pretty quickly. If we on the back end can produce and manage this data in a way that the front end can consume, and the most important thing, because many of us have been talking about this for 20 years, from the hundreds of libraries that we've been talking to, the industry seems ready for this. Folks are in fact willing to put up their hand. People, money, time, energy to basically make libraries a visible part of the web. So imagine if we basically, if I search for these assets and I search for Austin Public Library, Harry Potter, I don't get Overdrive. I don't get, Company X. I get Austin Public Library. The ability of describing libraries in a way that the web can understand and describing their assets that basically drive people back and the mind share back to the value of libraries is what folks seem to be ready for and what these standards and enabling technologies provide. And we believe fundamentally that the ability to weave libraries back into those search results weaves the credibility that we in libraries have in a physical environment back into a virtual one. And that's in part what LibHub is all about. It is about learning, leading, and linking and helping libraries come together to understand the impact of these technologies on the invisible and visible webs and to give them the tools and technologies and wherewithal and capabilities of describing themselves, their assets, and how they link to each other, with the notion of sort of increasing their visibility first, and then as we start to cross-link, increase the discovery across all libraries. And building off of the cooperative nature that is libraries. We, in the library community, are the most cooperative of any industry that I've been fortunate to work with. We're also one of the least efficient in our cooperation. This is a way of basically accelerating that cooperation in the way that the web understands. I'm very pleased to say that we've recently signed 5 major libraries up to basically experiment with this process. Each of them donating 1 million records to make them visible in the web, the way the web understands, and to accelerate the linking across them to test the needle in terms of their visibility and their impact, and the way that they, in fact, can change as an institution. So this isn't just a technical process. These initiatives never are. It is change management. It is strategy. It is awareness. It is education. It is systems. It is everything soup to nuts. It is an experiment. It's not a product. It's a step. And these folks have basically taken, put their hand up as to say, we're willing to take that step. Those steps are to make it incredibly simple and incredibly easy to start to take the existing data that they have and expose it in a way that the web understands. To increase the visibility of the web, of the assets that are currently hidden in the way the web understands. To build off not just the vocabularies, but the relationships among them. The vocabularies that we use to describe things are second to the links that connect them together. It is those links that we are accelerating. And it is those links that will increase discovery. And in the process, we will learn a lot. Now, what I talked about briefly is the things that basically are common among us. This is a few years ago, I was at the Library of Congress, and we were fortunate enough to have the chief child librarian show us around, some really cool stuff. And I don't know if you can see this extraordinarily well. This is one of the original pop-up books. This is actually called a peep show. It's an accordion book. You look through a pinhole, and every step of the way, your eye basically gravitates to more and more interesting, richer stories. So it literally is a static display, but your mind, as it sort of goes down each one of these levels, tells an increasingly interesting story. And it's a fascinating, I've never even heard of this thing before, and it's just a great thing. My kids went back on this trip to Washington and told everybody they went to Washington and saw a peep show. It was the most enjoyable thing to them. And they were so excited, and every teacher sort of pulled me aside afterwards and said, "Excuse me?" But it is such an interesting, special, unique asset. Every library we've talked to has a lot of things that are common. And I have everything that is, and then they have all these other things that are unique. All these things that are special. All these things that touch the community or neighborhood they serve. This is about not just increasing the things that we have in common, but in fact connecting those things that make us special to those things that have in common to raise the increased awareness. Right now we have been focusing tremendously on how do we surface books and various different things that we know how to do on the web. But it's this long tail of special collections that we believe actually, by connecting into these common substrates, will increase the visibility. The Princeton University has the entire F. Scott Fitzgerald collection of The Great Gatsby. I would love to be able to not only find The Great Gatsby near me, but to then be informed that Princeton has all of this information about F. Scott Fitzgerald, the original manuscript, his typewriter, the Garot painting that was part of the front cover of his book. The number of people that know the Princeton Library has the F. Scott Fitzgerald collection now consists of this auditorium and maybe like a few more. Okay? We can do more. We have to do more. Not only to surface our assets we have, but to help people understand all of the things that we have that make us special. How do we make this happen? Go to libhub.org. As an individual, you could basically say, look, I just think this is a great idea. As a library, if you're interested in participating, there's ways that we'll step you through. If you're a vendor, there's ways in which you can offer your support. And in fact, in the next couple of weeks, keep coming back to that, because we're about to basically make a pretty major announcement around the vendor space that are helping to make this in fact possible. As we think about going forward, rethink collectively our role in making memory organizations part of not just the web, but of credibility engines of the web. We have more credible assets hidden than we know. And as somebody that's been working in the past 20 years in the intersection between libraries, data, and the web, the opportunity from a web perspective of having access to these credible resources is just enormous. And the opportunity from a library perspective of surfacing these credible resources in a way that the web can find them, and the web users can discover them, and the web can drive traffic, foot, gate, and otherwise to my physical environment is just a wonderful thing. Learn about the visible and invisible webs. Learn about what's happening in schema.org. Learn about what's happening in BibFrame, and participate. You know, one of the things that basically, skin in the game is an important part of making this happen. From the DCMI going forward, two things are very clear as we work towards making the visible web and invisible web, come together. These application profiles are critical. There's no place right now where the social discussions can basically take place to make these happen. We need that safe, neutral, social infrastructure to make that possible. I think DCMI can serve a very important role in these, as well as the micro-language linked data patterns. Making it easy to connect to our assets is a key part of this. Right now, we don't have any consistency among our authority services. As just one of many examples, bringing those stakeholders together and trying to come up with that, I think would be a wildly useful and helpful way of making it more and more possible to start linking things together. Every step, every journey becomes with a first step, or in the particular case of this group, a hallway conversation. We are taking that first step together. This is just getting off the ground. But, our hope is this is an important first step, and then in the next 20 years, will look back on this and say, why did it take us so long? Because we have so much to offer, and it's just too important not to have that data available to the people that could benefit from it. So, I'm over my time and coffee is now being served, but thank you very much.
Thank you, Eric, and thank you all for being here for the conference. And I think Eric has provided us plenty to work on while we're here. So, coffee is outside. Please enjoy, and regular sessions will start shortly.